In Nanjing, China, there lives a young girl named Mei. She possesses an extraordinary talent for mathematics, able to solve complex problems in her mind effortlessly. Her remarkable memory allows her to recall any sequence of numbers she encounters. One day, while walking home with her friends, Mei is kidnapped by a group of men. They take her to Han, a notorious leader of a Chinese mafia. Han's criminal operations are digitally traceable, and he intends to use Mei as his personal human calculator to memorize crucial data. At first, Mei resists his demands, but when he threatens her mother's life, she reluctantly agrees to comply. Under the supervision of a loyal gang member named Chang, Mei is transported to New York, where she is disguised as Chang's daughter. Meanwhile, in New Jersey, Luke, a former police officer and cage fighter, finds himself in a fierce match that he had arranged to lose. However, he accidentally knocks out his opponent, sending him into a coma.
This unexpected victory infuriates Emil, the head of the Russian Mafia, who lost a fortune betting on Luke. Realizing the danger this poses to his family, Luke rushes home, only to discover that Emil's son, Vasily, has already murdered his pregnant wife. Overwhelmed with grief, Luke, despite his fighting skills, chooses not to seek revenge. The gangsters threaten to kill anyone he interacts with, leaving him isolated and without support. He ultimately returns to his hometown of New York, living as a homeless wanderer on the streets of Manhattan. A year later, Mei continues to work for the gang, and Chang takes her on regular outings. In the bustling streets of Chinatown, Mei keeps track of the net profit or loss percentages for each store. The store owners are required to pay a specific amount to the gang based on their earnings, making Mei a valuable resource for them. During her time with the gang, she has gained significant insight into the inner workings of the business in the criminal underworld. Meanwhile, Luke resides in a chaotic homeless shelter. One evening, he encounters a man with bare feet and severely infected wounds. Feeling compassionate, he gives the man his new shoes. However, the next morning, he wakes up to the shocking news that the man was murdered, and his shoes were stolen. It's clear that Luke's living situation is dire. In another part of the city, a woman associated with Chang approaches Mei late at night to deliver the heartbreaking news of her mother's passing in China. It turns out her mother had been gravely ill and hospitalized. The following day, Han, the gang leader, arrives in New York for the first time since sending Mei away. He presents her with a piece of paper filled with numbers, which Mei memorizes in under 10 seconds. The numbers appear to hold significant value, as Han promptly burns the paper, ensuring that only Mei retains the information. Afterward, Chang escorts her to another location, where she is instructed to memorize another set of numbers upon arrival. Everything seems to be going smoothly until they are ambushed by the Russian Mafia, led by Emil, the man responsible for Luke's wife's death. They are also after Mei for the numbers she has committed to memory. A fierce shootout breaks out, resulting in the Chinese gang's defeat and Mei's abduction. Meanwhile, Luke is having a rough day as a passerby snatches his breakfast money, and while trying to buy something to eat, he unexpectedly runs into an old colleague from the police force. A man quickly identifies Luke and brings him to a deserted building along with his fellow officers. In the past, Luke exposed their corrupt practices of aiding local gangsters, which still angers the cops who feel he got them into trouble. They assault and insult him, but he remains calm and does not fight back. Eventually, one of the officers hands Luke a gun, pressuring him to take his own life. However, Luke declines and walks away. Meanwhile, Mei is brought before Emil, the leader of the Russian gang, who inquires about the numbers. She soon realizes that the woman who informed her about her mother was actually working for Emil all along. The woman demands that Mei reveal the code, but Mei retorts that the woman will meet her end for not understanding how business operates. Shortly after, the men execute the woman, deeming her useless. Mei understands that she could face the same fate if she divulges the number, so she remains silent. At that moment, a corrupt officer, Captain Wolf, who is one of Luke's old colleagues, arrives at the Russian hideout to apprehend the criminals. However, his motives are not aligned with the law. He is acting on orders from the Chinese leader, Han. Emil contacts the captain, offering him double the amount of money from the Chinese gangsters to leave the hideout. The corrupt captain agrees and withdraws. Meanwhile, Mei manages to escape from the hideout unnoticed. Both the Russian and Chinese gangs begin searching for her, eager to find her before the other group does. May eventually arrives at the subway station just as Luke is about to take his own life. He is mere seconds away from jumping onto the tracks when he sees the frightened little girl and halts. He also spots the gangsters who murdered his wife searching for the girl. To evade them, she boards the subway, but the gang catches a glimpse of her. Luke follows closely behind her, sensing that something is amiss. Determined to rescue the girl, he springs into action. He jumps onto the subway and takes down all the Russians in his path. One of them recognizes Luke as the guy they had beaten up a year prior, astonished that someone who seemed so meek could take out their crew in mere minutes. Ultimately, he meets his end, and Luke finally encounters May. However, as soon as the subway halts, she disappears into the crowd, mistaking Luke for one of the villains. While searching for her, Luke overhears a red alert being broadcast to the police. He realizes that the corrupt officers are also after the girl and will likely hand her over to the Mafia. Moments later, two cops who had previously assaulted Luke spot May and attempt to take her away. Just in time, Luke intervenes and swiftly knocks them out, revealing that he had been biding his time on purpose. Although May remains wary of him, she reluctantly gets into a car with him when the Russian Mafia shows up. A thrilling car chase unfolds through the streets of Manhattan. In the end, Luke eliminates all the Russians, swipes their wallets, and takes May to an upscale hotel. Meanwhile, the captain discovers that May was forcibly taken, not by the Mafia, but by Luke himself. He is taken aback, as Luke has stayed clear of any criminal activity since leaving the police force. After settling into the hotel, May begins to trust Luke and shares the numbers she has memorized. Upon examining the format, Luke realizes they correspond to a safe's combination. May mentions she was supposed to memorize a second number before the Russians attack, indicating there are two safes containing something valuable, likely being traded by the Chinese Mafia. Just then, Chong tracks down May's location using a tracking device. At the hotel, chaos erupts as he and his henchmen initiate a shootout. People scramble for safety, and amidst the turmoil, Luke finds himself in a fistfight with the gangsters, leading to him and May being separated. Chong manages to grab hold of her while Luke narrowly escapes death. Determined not to leave May behind, he resolves to do whatever it takes to bring her back safely. He uses a phone he had stolen earlier to call Vasily, the son of the Russian leader Emil, who also happens to be the man responsible for his wife's death a year prior. Luke pretends to be a member of their gang, claiming he possesses the number everyone is after. Vasily, believing him, invites him to a casino to hand over the information. Meanwhile, the city's mayor summons the corrupt police captain to his office to address the recent violence. It becomes clear that both he and his partner Alex are equally corrupt. The mayor discloses that Luke was not just an ordinary cop, he was a CIA agent assigned to the police force post 9/11. During his time there, he and his former partner Alex took down several crime bosses to restore order. However, Luke had to resign after uncovering the corruption within the captain's team, while Alex remained and manipulated the mayor to climb the ranks. The captain realizes that the man he dismissed as a nobody is actually his most formidable adversary. Currently, Alex, now the mayor's accomplice, has also succumbed to corruption. When the mayor learns about May and Luke's connection, he becomes anxious, as if he knows something about the safe and its combination. Meanwhile, May is taken back to Han, the leader, who questions her about whether she revealed the combination to anyone. She deceives him, claiming she pretended not to understand English. Chong contacts Alex to inform him that they have the girl, allowing them to proceed with the meeting. It soon becomes clear that the individuals the Chinese Mafia were negotiating with are the mayor and his partner, Alex. They are exchanging the mysterious contents of their safes. Meanwhile, Luke arrives at the casino and encounters the Russian gangsters. He ambushes Vasily's henchmen and takes Vasily hostage, intending to use him as leverage against the Russian leader, Emil. Luke calls Emil, demanding information about the safe's contents in return for his son's safety. Emil reveals that the safe with the Chinese gangsters contains $30 million, while the mayor's safe holds something of equal value. The two parties were set to trade using the little girl, but the Russians intervened and disrupted the plan. Now that the Chinese have May, the deal is back on track. Chong meets with Alex to exchange the codes. Luke realizes that to rescue the girl, he must secure the $30 million from the Chinese Mafia before the trade occurs. However, he can't do it alone, as the safe is well guarded in Chinatown by the most dangerous members of the Chinese gang. He reaches out to his former police colleagues for assistance. They agree to help, motivated by the money. The group storms the hideout, leading to a shootout where several gangsters and officers lose their lives. When they finally reach the safe, Luke betrays the cops, killing them all except for the captain, whom he takes hostage along with Vasily. He grabs the money from the safe and heads to the mayor's office. On his way, he calls Alex to inquire about the contents of the second safe. With the money in his possession, Alex has no choice but to comply with Luke's demands. He reveals that the second safe belongs to the mayor, that has within it a disc containing information on every crime syndicate in New York was in play. The mayor had plans to sell it to the Chinese for $30 million, hoping to let the gangs handle their own issues. Alex was on the verge of finalizing the deal with Chong when the money was stolen, prompting him to seek out Luke instead. However, Luke insisted that May accompany him, as she was a valuable asset. Following orders, Alex eliminated Chong and his men, then drove off to meet Luke with May in tow. In the next scene, Luke breaks into the mayor's office, demanding the contents of the second safe. The mayor hesitates but ultimately has no choice but to hand over the disc containing the crime syndicate data. Luke knocks him out and heads back to meet Alex as promised. With both the money and the information, Luke positions himself as the most powerful player in the game, but Alex has something even more significant, May. When they finally meet to trade May for the cash, Luke refuses to go along with the plan and instead proposes a fight. Alex prepares for the confrontation, but May shoots him in the leg. Seizing the moment, Luke easily takes him down. Now free with the money and the disc for protection, Luke releases the captain with $50,000 as a gesture of goodwill for his troubles. He also lets Vasily go to avoid any retaliation from the Russians. Meanwhile, the Chinese mafia leader Han is left fuming over the theft of his money in May. Luke transfers all the leftover money to him to discourage any further attempts to find May. Finally, he stashes multiple copies of the disc around the city. If anyone poses a threat to them, they can leverage the drive to blackmail influential figures. In the closing scene, May and Luke hit the road to Seattle to begin a fresh chapter in their lives. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Please check the channel out for more movie recaps.